me free. I've never been anything that you've wanted me to be, so I'm asking you today, remember me. The things that I should do, I don't get them done for you. The things I shouldn't do, that's what I do. And Lord, I'm so ashamed to call on your holy name. Please have mercy for the awful things I do. And remember me, remember me. I'm that thief on the cross. Lord, please set me free. I've never been anything that you've wanted me to be. I'm asking you today, remember me. I'm asking you today, remember me.
I'll be reading 2 Corinthians 7 through 10. This is Paul speaking, and this is the Message version. Because of the extravagance of those revelations, and so I wouldn't get a big head, I was given the gift of a handicap to keep me in constant touch with my limitations. Satan's angel did his best to get me down. What he did, in fact, was push me to my knees. No danger, then, of walking around high and mighty. At first, I didn't think of it as a gift, and I begged God to remove it. 3 times I did that, and then he told me, "My grace is enough. It's all you need. My strength comes into its own in your weakness." Once I heard that, I was glad to let it happen. I quit focusing on the handicap and began appreciating the gift. It was a case of Christ's strength moving in on my weakness. Now I take limitations in stride and with good cheer. These limitations that cut me down to size, abuse, accidents, opposition, and bad breaks. I just let Christ take over. And so the weaker I get, the stronger I become.
So before I talk here real quick about the ACE, I'm going to let Jonathan step in here and tell us a little something that happened with him.
Hello, y'all. So I'm going to share a little story, maybe 2 stories. We'll see how it goes. If I'm all over the place, forgive me, I'll try to tie it in. About 3 weeks ago, on Friday afternoon heading away from work. I work at Fort Lee military base, and I live in Powhatan, so it's an hour drive. I left work and stopped at the Wawa for my normal routine coffee and donut and for my hour drive home. And there was a guy in line, and he had a beard down to here, hair to match, smelled like woods, had a backpack on, a little bit of alcohol in his breath, and he was trying to buy, I think it was one of those malt drinks, one of the cheap, liquid crack. And he had the line held up, and I'm like, oh man. So my heart wasn't completely pure in all this. And I'm like, I got you, bro. Told the cashier to ring it up, and he thanked me. So later on, as we walked out of the store, we had a little conversation. I asked him some questions, and you could tell he was homeless living. He said he had a little spot there in the swamp. And so I'm going on my merry way, get in my car, and I watch him walk down into the woods. And as I was getting in the car, I was like, man, that dude probably could use a break. But I pulled up to the stoplight, and I'm heading for the interstate. And so I'm going to say it like this, guys, because I don't like to use God said or God told me or the Lord told me this. We've heard, so I'm just going to describe it. The Holy Spirit is the way I feel about it. The good in me had a battle with me. Let's put it that way. And I pretty much was like, I think I said out loud, oh, hell no. Oh, no. And it was, no, you should probably offer your home for the weekend. Like, what? Well, I don't know, it's a half mile to the interstate, and then sometimes it can take 5 minutes with the traffic lights in between, and man, I'm having this battle like never before. I mean, seriously, like, it was so strong, and I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Now let's pull the car around, do a U-turn, I head back to the Wawa, and I'm sitting there at the light waiting to turn into the Wawa, and I see him coming out of the woods. He'd gone in the woods to drink his drink. So as I'm pulling up, he's coming across the sidewalk, I pull right in, I'm like, hey man, come here. I was like, this is gonna be crazy. So I'm gonna offer you my home for 3 square meals, a safe place to sleep. I will drop you off here Monday morning, same place I picked you up. So he's like, he's smarter than I am. He's asking me questions like, who are you, right? I'm like, look, man, I know it sounds crazy. And I even said what I hate to say. Well, God told me turn around and come offer you this. I know it sounds nuts. It sounded nuts to me, right? And so after a little bit of talking, he jumps in the car, off we go. And I'm like, here we go. And so I got an hour drive, guys, and I get into Powhatan, and I realize I'm about 20 minutes from the house, and I'm like, my wife does not know this is happening. So I was like, I can't have a conversation on the phone. That's a little too awkward, next to I said, man, I got to warn my wife. And he kind of looked at me and smiled. And he was very intelligent, but obviously we do, even no matter how intelligent you are, we do some really silly stuff to ourselves. But I text her, I say, bringing a stranger home for the weekend. And off we went again. And I'm waiting for some kind of response, and I got at the mailbox, and she's like, huh? Please explain. And I could hear her voice, huh? Too late. We're here. So off we went, and the event started. Well, and so what was interesting, the whole weekend left more questions than answers, I guess you could say. It opened up a lot of thought and doors to thoughts, and probably for him also. But as we got started with the evening, I knew, here's what I did know, and I was very grateful for, that I was like, he's probably not a hard drug issue, because he would not be willing to go to a strange place in the country where he has no access to drugs, unless he's got a ton on him. I knew he was in the alcohol, I could smell it on him. And I'm like, okay, I could deal with this, I thought. I've got something for him if he needs it. My job's not to dry him up. I knew that could be dangerous. I didn't know to what degree. So that was not my intent. My intent was exactly what I offered him. 3 squares, place to stay. I told him I'll be working in the yard. He can help, do whatever. Got the place yourself. Me, my wife, and 2 dogs. So first night, I was like, I'm going to go out here and stay in the porch, and you're welcome to come join me. I was like, if you need a cold beer, there's one in the refrigerator in the garage. And, back up. I set him up in the bathroom, all this stuff he needed, and I was like, whenever you need this, if you feel comfortable, this is here for you to tidy up. What was interesting was he never showered the entire weekend. But what he did do is he washed his hair and his beard in the sink, and I gave him some fresh clothes of mine that he put on when we washed all the stuff for him. But, you know, I was thinking about that, because all these things are racing through your mind, and it's like, how would you feel? Some dude picks you up, takes you to his house, and then wants you to get naked and get in his bathtub. So at first I'm like, okay, he's got to get comfortable. So do I, because I don't even know who this guy is. He doesn't know who I am. So it was a big risk. And so anyway, the evening went. He was polishing off some beer like I've never seen. And then he got into, there was a bottle of peach, what was it? The Captain Morgan that a friend had given me for a birthday present, which I don't drink that stuff. I was planning on giving away. Well, he saw it up there. He's like, and it was come nighttime. He's like, do you mind if I have a shot of that? And I'm thinking, no, that's fine. Nightcap, get you some good night's sleep. Because see, there's so much in conversation that went on during this process. I was learning that he had sleep issues. He couldn't sleep about 4 hours a day, but he was telling stories of how he would wander the streets in search of a safe place to sleep because the people in the streets are dangerous. And so I didn't know what part of that was part of his 10 years in the streets. And this guy was 40 years old, guys. And I knew he was young, in spite of the beard, because he had the young eyes, he had bright eyes. So I'm all over the place, I get it. But so we get through the first evening, and the next morning I'm like, okay, I told him, I was like, you know what, we're going to hit the Wally World. We're going to eat good tonight. We're going to go see if, first of all, we're going to get you a new backpack, because the backpack is just shredded. And shoes, man, his shoes were just pieces, But he was intelligent. He's like, these are the only kind I can wear because, people have given me boots, people have given me leather shoes. And when I get soaking wet, then I have feet problems. He's like, they're $20 shoes from Walmart. So we head out, and with great intentions. So, and by the way, my wife was, she surprised me. It was very incredible. It was kind of one of those things like, well, who is this for? Maybe this is for me, not him. But anyway, she was very supportive and allowed me, because she can be very wanting to take charge, but she left me to tend with everything that was going on, everything that was happening, everything I had to deal with, and it was pretty amazing. And later on Saturday, I was like, babe, look, thank you for being a trooper. I don't know, and I told her kind of how it unfolded, just what I told you guys, and then she's like, no, I get it. So I was like, well, cool, awesome. So the second day, like I said, we headed off to the Wally World. We got some steak, we got his new backpack, and here's where I began to mess up. So in conversation, he made it very clear that he liked his wine, right? Well, that's because if you're homeless, the cheapest bottle of wine gives you the most volume for your fix. So when he would get money, and it was amazing that he had really no issues in getting money from his stories. And so I said, look, we got 2 evenings, go pick you out a bottle of wine. He's like, well, I like the Merlot. And I'm like, yeah, me too, right? I'm like, so go get you some Merlot. And so we got our shopping, we got our steaks, we went home and we did some work around the house. We had some really deep conversations about all kinds. I can't tell everything that went on, it'd be too long. I can't even remember it. But we had some really deep conversations about all different things. Now, there was one point on Saturday where we were talking about faith. We were over by the fire. I was burning a bunch of trash from the property and just hanging out. And of course, he had his beer. And I said, well, he's like, well, I'm not very religious. And I was like, well, I'm not either. I said, I have a personal relationship with my Creator and my Savior. It's not a religion. Religion is man and laws. And so we had these little conversations. He was like, well, that's interesting. I've never really thought about it like that. And I'm like, I left things alone. I left things as he would open the doors for the conversations. I didn't know the guy. I didn't know what would trigger him. I didn't know his situation. Well, on Saturday, as we got to know each other more, and as he got to know his wine more, he began to talk, and he would talk. But he had a stutter. The stutter got worse with the alcohol. And then at one point it became very circular in conversation, but I was hanging with him. And left out one thing. On the way back from Walmart, my wife had said, hey, look, I'm out of, I can't remember the liquor it was that her father had given her, and she doesn't drink much. She might have a little nightcap. It might take her 6 months to drink through something. It tastes like Robitussin. She's like, could you stop and see if you can find that? And I'm thinking, yeah, this is different. But I'm thinking, well, she might need a shot tonight from what she's dealing with. So whatever. But I was like, ooh, we're stopping by the liquor store. This can't be good. So we stopped by the liquor store. And he went in with me, and he was getting ready to pull out some cash. I'm like, wow. I was like, all right, guy, just put it away. I said, just go get what you would normally get. That was the true mistake. But, I'll say this but. It showed me the degree I've never ever in my life experienced what this guy put down. Because we got home at 2 o'clock. And I just started doing yard work. He got into the Scotch, 5th, that he picked out was gone in an hour. A 5th. And we're talking. We're standing here talking. Normal. And I'm just like, wow. This is bad. And I was right. If I had tried to dry him up, it would have killed him. So it was just amazing. So we get all the way to pulling the stakes off. He had gone through the Scotch, 3/4 of a bottle of wine, and I have no idea how many beers. We sit down at the dinner table, and he's thanking us the whole time. The guy was very courteous, well-spoken, except for his little stutter. And it turns out he had an associate's degree in electronic engineering. Because during that Saturday, I went out to work on my car. The AC was, and we're troubleshooting the car. Now, I'm an electrician, so we're speaking a similar language. And I'm like, man, I don't know what's going on here. I said, we're troubleshooting. And I said, let me go get the book. Well, I had left the book in the back seat of the car, didn't know it. So I come back out, and he's already pulling through. He's going through the schematics. He's like, all right, we need to check. Let's pull this out. Let's pull these relays out. Let's bench test this. Let's go over here. I'm like, man. I'm like, this guy. I'm like, what? How does this happen? How do you get there? Well, we, in the NorthStar group, we know how people get there. So, he passes out at the dinner table after eating a steak, baked potato, some asparagus and onions, and literally from talking to, and the wife she goes, and I'm like, she goes, he drank that whole thing of Scotch. I was like, and the wine. I was like, yeah. I was like, I got this. And I was like, and the beer. And so I was like, relax. I said, we're going to let this metabolize a little bit. Let's go downstairs. By the way, we had given him we have an attached garage, which is set up like a man cave, big old TV and couches and chairs and wood stove. And that was what he was given. And we locked the door each night because I'm not going to be such a fool. And we finally got him to, I finally had to get him up. Now, I didn't know how I was going to go. Had to, you're safe. You know, I'm shaking him like, I was like, you're safe, James. Let's get you downstairs where you're comfortable. And finally got him downstairs. And all right, so that's Saturday. Sunday went on. I'll make this quick, wrap it up. But come Sunday, wasn't quite as bad with the alcohol. I was able to steer him to the Coors Light, but he then got into the rest of the bottle that was on the refrigerator. That ended up gone, and I pointed it out to him because I was watching very closely the whole time, and I can't describe. You're in a state of like over excitement, your adrenaline's going, but you're like in this calm. I was in a calm place, but yet I was on high alert the entire weekend. The first night I got like 4 hours of sleep. 4 hours of sleep, because he was up in 4 hours, no matter what. The guy jumped up after Saturday's alcohol and felt better than I did. Or at least he looked like he did. He's just standing there. And so anyway, Sunday night, pretty much same thing, and I was like, well, he's going to sleep good tonight, and I felt a little more comfortable, but got him to bed. Oh, I said, this is your last time to tidy up. I explained what's going to happen in the morning. I was like, I got to get up at 5:30. We are hitting the road at 6. I was like, we're going to stop at the Hardee's at Temple Avenue. We're going to get some breakfast. And I said, I'm going to drop you wherever you want to go, and I got to be at work. So I was like, this is your last chance to tidy up. And so he ate first. I said, there's nothing special tonight. We're going to finish up the bucket of chicken, because on Friday I stopped and got a bucket of chicken. And he's like, okay. Well, he went in there and ate. I didn't realize it. I thought he was heading for the bathroom. He ate, and I'm like, oh, this is not going to go good, because once you eat, lights out. Well, he goes into the bathroom, and like 45 minutes go by, and Denise is like, you might want to go check on him. I'm like, yeah, I'm putting it off. I'm putting it off. So I'll go, I'm beat on the door, and I'm like, James, everything all right? I heard some stirring, but he wouldn't answer. So I said, I'm going to give him 30 more minutes. And had to pick my lock, get him out of the bathroom. He was curled up in the bathtub, all his clothes on. And it's just sad, guys. I mean, it's just so sad. But I got him up. Same thing. I kept telling him, you're safe, you're safe, you're safe. Because he woke up wild, wild, like almost, you didn't know if the guy's going to wake up swinging or what. But got him back down to the stairs, and I'm thinking, man, whew, it's going to be, it's getting close. Oh, let me leave this Sunday. Sunday, I'm getting worn out. I'm like, how can I get rid of this guy? Well, I'd have to lie, make up some story. So I'm having this conversation with God, with the Holy Spirit, with the good in me and the bad in me, going, how can I do this? It's like, the answer I got was, you're going to give him what you said you're going to give him. So after we had that conversation, my brain was fine. I went on the rest of the evening. So I got 4 hours of sleep, and he woke me up at 3:30 in the morning come Sunday night into Monday morning. So I get up. I went and unlocked the door, and it's so funny because he's just standing there, and he's playing music on he had a phone, and oh man, did I wake you up? And I'm like, well, something woke me up. And I said, well, I figured I heard you in here. I was like, I figured I better unlock the door. He's like, yeah, I noticed you lock the door each night. And I was like, yeah, I did. He's like, that's all it was said. So he knew. It's just interesting things. But we had the point of this whole story and weekend was we had so many conversations and times where I could spend thought. Like when he said, well, I'm not religious. Well, I'm not either. It's a personal relationship. It's not a wild belief. It's a personal relationship. When he was talking about his family name and they were from royalty, well, one Google search said they were of working class. I didn't have the heart to tell him. I was like, but James, God made you special. You're one and one only, and he knew you before you were created in the womb, and you are special. Doesn't matter what your name is. Little conversations like that throughout the whole weekend. It was kind of wild. And Saturday, he had asked me, he's like, well, John, what's in this for you? A good question, right? He's like, what is this? What's the motivation? And I was like, well, I said, for one, I feel like a human being again. I was like, we get caught up in this rat race world, and it's like, what are we doing? What is it all for? He's like, well, that's different. It's a little thing. There were little moments where I was able to just continually feed in some different thought. And there was a point where he began to tell about his family and how his family had abandoned him, how his mother had passed away early after he had lost one of his best friends to suicide, another friend to one of his that he considered of his only best friends to drugs. And it turned out that his story started in his teens with hard drugs. And he had slowly over time, just lost his life, his family. He had been married, had a daughter, and had restraining orders put on him because I found out later. And through some of the conversations, I looked him up afterwards, and he had a band on his arm. It wasn't a metal band like, it would tell if you had some sickness, if somebody would find you. It was more like a hospital band, and what was funny is I didn't want to know what it said. If it said something like, paranoid schizophrenia or something, I personally don't think I would have had the ability to deal with something like that. But he had signs of paranoia. Anxiety, terrible, and I couldn't tell what of it was from his environment that he's been living in for 10 years, or what part of it may have been an underlying issue. So it was a very complex weekend, but the reason I wanted to share this story is 6 years ago, I think it's going on 6 years, when I first came to NorthStar, I was an extremely black and white thinking guy. Everything was, you go to the doctor, well, it hurts when I do this, well, then don't do that. That's just how I thought, very linear and black and white. Well, it's not black and white. I couldn't talk to people in a way that showed compassion. I wasn't able to deliver any kind of thought outside of what a person may think or believe without it coming across as, I get very passionate about my thoughts and beliefs. It comes out in anger. Everybody, it's just NorthStar. Over that weekend, I realized these 6 years that I've been coming to NorthStar and having this involvement God was preparing me for that one little weekend. And I'm like, I could have never done this. I just couldn't have. I wouldn't have had the know-how, the ability to work with them, the patience, the ability to spin these thoughts it would never happen. NorthStar. You guys made that happen for me. That's the reason I say this. So, and once again, we find the trauma, we find the abandonment, we find the abuse that you end up doing to yourself. And once you're in that place, you need help. You need help to get out of these places. Ultimately, God is your answer, but He put us here on this earth to help each other, not to tear each other to pieces. So that's kind of what I wanted to throw out there for you guys, and I'll let Craig take the rest away.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's a powerful story. So you may have noticed that we included in your bulletin the ACE survey. It's such a wonderful document, isn't it? It's positive, happy, you feel good about things. But the adverse childhood experience, really quickly, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of education here on this. It's like Jonathan's saying, so you can learn to see the world different. So the title my talk is Their ACE Score is High. If for you that haven't been in NorthStar, you may not understand that like we do in NorthStar. What we've come to realize is that education awareness is what turns you towards recovery. There's more to it, of course, but it's huge to have that. So I'm sure, Jonathan, at some point somewhere you said, I'll bet his ACE score is high. I'm sure you'd applaud it if you didn't say it. So the ACE score, we use it all the time because it helps us to understand where people are. So 1 in 6 people, and let me back up, the ACE score has got a multitude of data. So it's a very large sample here, very large. So it's very reliable. 1 in 6 Americans will score 4 or more on the ACE. I think us in NorthStar a little cynical. It might be a little higher than that, actually. But a lot of people have, you in your lives, you've had these things happen. Trauma and abandonment. We've all had trauma and abandonment, so make sure you hear that. But trauma and abandonment at high levels really messes with us. So what we want is for us to become aware of that and what it does to our lives. Joel B. Heffler, one of my most unfavorite but best professors I ever had, made me much better, always used to say, I don't care about your childhood. I just care about how your childhood affects you today. And that's what we're after. Does it make sense for us to be carrying around with us shame, abandonment issues, trauma, 40 years after it happened? But we do. And it's such a relief when we can start saying, you know what, I did have a high ACE score, and now I'm aware of it, and I can do something about it. In case you don't think trauma and abandonment are important in how we deal with things, the number one statistic for the ACE is if you score 6 or more on the ACE, you will die 20 years younger than someone who scored 0 on ACE without intervention. Makes total sense. We're living recklessly. We're abusing alcohol and drugs. We're living lives that create so many issues. We're smoking, we're drinking, high-risk sex, all that stuff we're doing because we're trying to medicate the pain of trauma and abandonment. When we start realizing that we have these things, we can start doing something about it. So the kind of a big picture, the ACE scores abuse, childhood neglect, and family issues. For like, I know there too, that too. But like I think it's question 9 or is it 10? Yeah, number 10, did a household member go to prison? If you had someone in your family go to prison, there's issues in your house. Let's just be honest, right? And that's what it does for us. It helps us to understand what's going on. So just an example of some of the statistics on this. If you score 4 or more, you have high-risk behaviors that you'll probably be smoking, you'll be obese, if you have unattended pregnancies, you will probably have STDs at some point in your life, You have a 15% greater chance of heart, COPD, and immunological diseases. And again, I said if you score 6 or more, you're going to die young without intervention. If you had a score of 4 or more, if you're a woman, you have 66% higher depression rates. Men, it's 35% higher depression rates than compared to people who have a 0 or 1 score. Scored 4 or more, you're 7 times more likely to be an alcoholic than if you score 1 or less. I could go on with statistics. The only reason I'm doing this is for you to understand what trauma does to us. In America, we do a terrible job with trauma. You all have heard of PTSD, correct? This will age me a bit, but when I first started working at a mental health center in 1982, PTSD was not even a term yet. It tells you how slow we've come with this. And then I get so frustrated with professionals in the psychology world and in schools too. So little Jimmy's coming to school, acting out, throwing things, getting in trouble, not doing his homework. Little Sally's not doing their homework, and she's living a life of anger and all this stuff. And we diagnose with ADHD, and we diagnose with depression, and we diagnose with anxiety, and we always got to do the oppositional defiance disorder. Why don't we just say, what's your trauma? What's going on in your life right now that we're not seeing? Because that's where it's at. I can guarantee you, majority of these diagnoses should be trauma-based. So for any of you out here today that are listening, or you're here with us here, and it's so hard to protect your past. It takes so much energy. It takes so much time and effort to live with resentment, to live with bitterness, to live with toxic shame, to live in a life where you're just protecting yourself and all the stuff from your family and all the stuff. And even worse, you might be imposing it on others in your immediate family. If you get stuck with this, you're focusing on past events, you're stuck on triggers that keep hitting you, you act out, or you medicate. Either one of them don't work very well. Our goal is to have a rich, full, meaningful life that we actually enjoy. Always add that in there. Some of us have rich, full, meaningful lives, we just don't enjoy it very much. But we don't have to live this way. We don't have to live like this. We don't have to be in so much, one of the symptoms of PTSD is what they call body armoring. You ever been to a chiropractor or a massage therapist and they say, relax. And you go, I am relaxed, right? That's you. You're braced for the next bad events. You're waiting for the next thing to happen. You're waiting for another traumatic event to happen. And the problem with that is then we go out and we do all these things to just medicate. We get into trauma bonding relationships. We dissociate. We just see ourselves as this mistake, this problem. And I'm not, trying to, get rid or, talk about confidential things, but I think you guys are okay for NorthStar. I think you're okay for me to say our ACE scores are pretty high in there. Pretty high, actually, kind of amazingly high. And thank God, Walnut Grove, that we can come here and talk about it. That we can come here and do something about it. Because here's the deal. Here's what I do love about recovery. You have a choice to make with trauma and abandonment. You can live your life with anger, with resentment, with bitterness, with addiction, or you can turn your trauma into a gift to making you a better person. So Jonathan was telling you that. He would not have offered up his house to a homeless man if he didn't understand empathy, if he didn't understand the pain of a high ACE score. So it's a beautiful thing if you think about all the people out here who are hiding, running from their past, in many ways destroying themselves, either subtly or not subtly. And we have a place where you can come that's safe and secure, and you can look at your life, and you can make the decision to take your trauma and turn it into a gift. Because here's the deal, guys. You can't turn the clock back. Wish you could. No, I really don't wish you could. Because if you did, then you wouldn't be who you are. So us in recovery who have been there for a while, we understand that. Most of us wouldn't take back what we've done. And we've done some pretty crazy stuff. But if we did that, then we wouldn't be who we are today. And we wouldn't have the opportunity to be there for others. And that's how I see God working. Is God, and this is what I just wish I could just make everybody understand. God loves us. God is not judging us. God is there with our hurts. God is there with our good times. God does not keep score. And most importantly, I believe, God does not waste anything. So in your trauma, in your abandonment issues, don't let it go to waste. Take it, make you a better person. Live with empathy, live with love, live with connection. So I just thank you again, Walnut Grove, for allowing us to be here today, and for us allowing us to be here on other days as well. And it's just an amazing ministry we're in, and I don't want to be anywhere else on Friday nights. Nowhere else. So I think we have another song to sing. If any of you want to come forward, I'm going to come down here while they're singing. If any of you would like to come forward and talk to me, you certainly can. You also certainly you can call me anytime, and I will call you back as well, or you can email me, but don't live with your abandonment and trauma. Don't live with it. Do something about it. Make it a gift.
All right, it's that time when we're going to sing our anthem. Our anthem is Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Gone. And just like Craig said, NorthStar is a very special place in this community. I think the most important thing about it is we are learning, we are experiencing what God called us to do, and that's to love one another like Christ. To love him and to love others, we fulfill the law. And that's what we're doing. We really are doing that, and chains are being broken. I look at these singers up here. We have people who, and they're amazing, we have people who haven't done music for years because they've gone through, divorces or pain that has just shut them down. We have people who other injuries have shut their voice down. They're in chains. Even showing up and presenting yourself. So all these chains are being broken in our connection and our love for one another in NorthStar. So I just want to thank you guys. Thank Walnut Grove. Thank these people. And stand and sing this with us.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my chains are gone. I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. The Lord has promised good to me. His word, my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. My chains are gone. I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. My chains are gone. I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow. The sun forbear to shine. But God, who called me here below, will be forever mine. Will be forever mine. You are forever mine.
Coming up, guys. So we always close NorthStar with the Prayer of Serenity, and we'd like to do that today. So if you would stand and join us. Come on up, guys. So I asked the people from NorthStar to come join us. We always kid about when we're talking about we're having anxiety and all that stuff. We always go, I think there's a prayer out there somewhere. Might help us. Hey, come up, Pete. Come on. Again, thank you all. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, NorthStar has some pretty talented singers. Let's pray. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that Jesus will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. Amen. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great week. Thank you, everybody. Singers, awesome, awesome, awesome.